What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the SchuZ Show. I'm your guys' host, SchuZ Schumaker. So there's going to be a lot to get in on today's show. Obviously, we have the Jake Paul, Gervonta Tank Davis news coming out. I'll be breaking that down as well as many other things as well. But before we get into the boxing news for today, I've got a very special guest joining me today. He's one of the top rising prospects in all boxing right now with a 5-0 record with 5 KOs. He's signed a matchroom currently, and that is Taylor Bevan. Taylor, appreciate you for taking time to come on today, man.
No worries. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. So first things first, we were already scheduling this interview, but now it's got announced. You are fighting now. You're about 2 months out, almost to the date of your next fight, October 17th, your call. Take us through what's going through your mind that you have your 6th fight locked in now.
Just taking it pretty steady at the moment. To be honest, it's too early to get into camp, so I'm just ticking over, sort of planning my camp out, how it's going to go with the spine and stuff. I'll probably get into camp start of September then, and be full steam ahead.
Now, it's been quite the past year for yourself, and we'll touch more on it a little bit, though. But coming up in November, it's going to be your 1-year anniversary of turning pro, signing a Matchroom. And since that point, you already have 5 fights down, 5 KOs. You're going to be having your 6th fight in that time span. How has this first year as a pro gone for yourself?
Yeah, it couldn't have gone much better, to be honest. I'm very grateful to Matchroom for looking after me and keeping me so active, because I think that's so important for young fighters like myself. 6 fights in the year is not that hard, I don't think, in the UK. It's gone perfectly so far. I'm really happy.
Would you say this past year just kind of gone by very quickly for yourself? Has it been a little bit long knowing that you're now pro, having 6 fights in the duration of a year? Or how would you say in terms of that aspect, have you kind of got adjusted and acclimated to the pro ranks?
I'd say the last year's flown by, to be honest, because I've been in camp a lot of the time. I haven't really had much time off.
Right.
Each fight, I've had a new date to work towards. And, I've sort of had a 6-week camp, maybe a week or 2 off between fights, and then got straight back into training. So it's flown by.
In regards to the training aspect, obviously in amateurs, you fight much more often, more frequently than pro ranks, but still it's different because for a pro ranks, obviously you're going to be preparing for much longer time, 6-8 week training camp, whatever it might be. How have you got acclimated on that aspect? Has that been an easy transition for yourself, or how would you say the transition in that regard's been?
It's been quite a comfortable transition, to be honest, because I've stayed with one of my amateur coaches, Colin Jones. It's been quite a smooth transition. I'm finding it actually than the amateurs at the moment because it's a bit more structure. It's one fight, you have a proper training camp to build up to that fight.
Right.
At the moment, the level of opposition is a little bit lower than what it was at that international level, so the camps are the tough bits at the moment, but the structure is something I prefer.
Now, overall, in terms of just everything, I know you kind of talk about the structure, you prefer that aspect. Do you like the amateur ranks more? Do you like the pro ranks in terms of the whole package, everything that comes with being a pro, everything that comes with being an amateur? Which one do you prefer at this point in time?
I like both, but at the moment, the pros is something that's new to me, so I have to say I enjoy that more at the moment.
Right.
It feels like a bit of a fresh start. The amateurs is very fast paced. I think my style does suit the pros, and I think as the fights go on and the level of opposition go up, then you'll see me really flourish then.
All right. Well, I want to get a little bit more in depth. Obviously, I don't think your opponent's been announced yet for October 17th, but when you talk about this, though, it's going to be a 6th career fight. What do you want to go out there and improve? What's the statement that you want to make? What do you want to accomplish and get better at, improve on, whatever it might be? What do you want to get out of October 17th?
I just want to settle into the fight a bit more. I think in my first 6 fights, I've been rushing things a little bit too. Well, my first 5, I've been rushing things a little bit too much. I want to go in there, settle into the fight, and really show the skills that I have, and just really show the fans what I'm about, rather than just go in there and try and blast my opponent out of there.
And that is a huge thing. I know it's been a big talking point this past week for Mose Itauma, obviously another British guy out there who obviously he can't seem to get too many rounds underneath his belt. For yourself, your most recent fight, it was the longest fight you've had, but still only lasted a couple of rounds. Is the goal for yourself to start being able to add on more rounds underneath your belt, or is it okay with you going out there and still just getting the early KOs?
I think those early KOs are very important at the start of your career because it gets a lot of attraction, and that's what fans want to see. But it's important to get the rounds in as well. I think as the level of opposition goes up, I'll have to adjust my sort of game plan a little bit. I won't just let go in there and pass people out. So, um, yeah, I think it's just up to me taking my time a little bit more, setting shots up rather than just going all full steam ahead. Like, you look at someone like Moses this weekend, he just blasted them way out there. He did it in a very technical way. Like, a lot of thought went into it.
Absolutely. Now, I do want to ask you a couple of questions because on the card is a couple of big British fights going down. I just want to know your prediction on that one. Obviously, the main event for that fight card, your call, will be Conway versus Lidard. A very intriguing fight from my eyes. What do you think is going to happen in that fight? Who do you have to win in that fight?
Yeah, like you said, it's a very close fight. I haven't watched loads of either opponent, but I think probably George Lynn, the younger and fresher fighter, he probably is going to want it more as the challenger. So yeah, that'd be my prediction.
All right. Well, Taylor, I want people to get to know your story a little bit more because as you start to grow into the pro ranks, more and more people are learning your name. So I want people to get to know how you become the guy that you are today. And so let's head back now. You're obviously from the UK, but you grew up in a family that is very well known in the sports world. Your brother's obviously a professional footballer. Your dad's been involved with the boxing world, so on and so forth. Walk us through that aspect. What was it like just growing up such a competitive family in terms of sports? Can you
Oh,
hear me?
yeah, I think you just cut out then.
Oh, there we go. Perfect. I hear you again. Perfect. So I'll just ask that question real quick. So when you talk about growing up in a family with so much competitive nature, your brother, as I said, professional footballer, your dad is involved with boxing. What was it like just being a part of a family with so much sports and competitiveness?
Yeah, my dad's played a massive part in both of mine and my brother's careers. I don't think either of us would be where we are now without him.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know how I've grown up isn't any different to any other household because it's the life I've lived. He's always encouraged us to sort of follow our dreams, and we've both done that. And thankfully, it's worked out. And touch wood, at the moment, everything's going really well. So I can't thank him enough for the work he's put into both of us. Yeah, my brother's been injured for a few years, but he should be back playing this season, and I'm looking forward to watching him and going and supporting him as well, the way he's done with my boxing career.
When you talk about a brother, obviously different sports from each other, but still, both guys have the aspects and the desire to be professional athletes in their respective sports. Both guys have been successful in that so far. But when you talk about that, what was it like growing up with him, just being able to push you guys selves to want to be the best version possible?
Yeah, we've sort of been on different paths, really. So um, it's more of he's inspired me. Well, like when I go and watch him play football, it's more of an inspiration rather than a competitiveness against him. I think if we were in doing the same sport, obviously you'd share around sparring with each other and it'd be a lot more competitive. But
Right.
because we're in separate sports, I think I just want the best for him and I want him to go as far as he can in his respective sport. Um, yeah, it inspires me watching him play football, and I hope I do the same for him when he comes and watch me box.
Now, I do have to ask this question because I know that there was a matchup documentary on yourself a little bit ago. I think it was 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And your brother and you were both sparring. Obviously, it was a lot more playful. But have you guys ever actually sparred to any extent, whether it be on or off cameras?
No, not probably. Just little mess about spars like it was the other day.
Right.
I found it quite funny because we got a bit of stick on social media and stuff about which one's the boxer because neither of them can fight. I found it quite funny, but I literally just got off holiday. It was only a little mess about, but he can handle himself pretty well. I think if he'd gone down the path of being a boxer, then he definitely could have turned out to be a good one. But no, we've never sparred properly. It's always just been playful things like you saw the other day on the Matchroom documentary.
All right. Well, how about for yourself? What brought you into boxing? How did you start the sport? Was it always a sport you loved growing up, or what got you into boxing?
I think like any young boy, you just try all different sports when you're younger.
Right.
I did a bit of athletics. I played football to a half decent level as well. My dad used to box, so that's where the interest sort of came from. We used to go down the gym when we were younger. I used to watch him training, so that's where the interest came from to start with. He then took me down there, started coaching at the time I started training, and it got to the point where you sort of pick which sport you want to take a bit more seriously, and boxing was just something I loved more than football or athletics or any other the other sports I tried. So I pursued that, and thankfully it's turned out to a career. Not many people follow their dreams, and I'm glad that I did, because at the moment it's paying off, and I'm living the life of a professional boxer, and I couldn't have asked for much more.
When you look back at that point when you really settled into boxing, what was it about the sport? Why is boxing that appealed so much to you as opposed to the other sports?
I don't know, because it is such a hard sport, and
Right.
I think every boxer asks themselves sometimes, like, what do I love about this sport? And I think it's hard to pin down one thing in particular. I love the competitive aspect of it. I love the training. I love the disciplines of boxing.
Mm.
I think it's just the lifestyle as a whole that I like. Boxing gives you so much to take into life in general and teaches you so much. I think that's the main thing for me. It's just boxing as a whole I love. Football, I was pretty good at football. I did enjoy it, but it was more of an activity to do with my mates rather than a career to pursue. Also with boxing, because it is an individual sport, it's everything's on your shoulders. Whereas football, I did get frustrated at times when, let's say, I'd have a good match and we'd still lose the game because there's 10 other players
Right.
on the field. Whereas boxing, if you don't perform, then you're not going to get results. But if you are performing, then the results show, and then that's all down to you. That's your success, and it's your failure at the same time. So I think I like that individual aspect of it as well.
When would you say it clicked for yourself and you realized, you know what, this is a sport that I can pursue and become a pro, and I can actually be very good in this, I have a future in the sport? When did that click for yourself?
I started training full time in boxing when I was, say, 17. I got onto the Welsh full time program to start working towards the Commonwealth Games. Um, I always took boxing very seriously since I've been young. I always got up for runs before school and always had a healthy diet. So I've always taken it very seriously, but started training full time about 17. I think when I got on the GB boxing program then and started working towards the Olympics, that's when I thought this could potentially be a career that lasts a long time. And yeah, something I could go all the way in, basically.
I want to also ask about the British boxing scene, because when you talk about British boxing, obviously boxing's massive. Football is the number one sport I know out there, but boxing is probably debatably the second biggest sport. When you talk about that aspect, growing up in a country where boxing is so beloved, you have such a big fan base, and yourself already growing that fan base as well. What's it just like in terms of the boxing atmosphere out there in Great Britain?
Yeah, I feel very fortunate to be living in the UK, to be honest, because a lot of these countries that have so much success in the amateurs don't have the opportunities to turn pro because the boxing scene out there just isn't as big. I think pro boxing in particular in the UK is very big, and I'm hoping I can be one of the next British stars to come out of the UK, and we've got the fan base and support here to yeah, go all the way and have those big pay-per-view fights here in, then go over to America and have big fights over there as well.
I'm also interested because for British boxing overall, we know it's one of the most historic countries. I already talked about how big it is out there. Right now, it's a little bit of a dry spell. Obviously, Nick Ball defended his belt. He's the only world champion currently standing in Great Britain. I think obviously most Itauma will be there soon, so on and so forth. But when you talk about that, why do you think that's a situation at hand when there's so many great fighters from there? What is that going on in terms of only having one world champion at this moment?
To be honest, I don't know. I think it's just circumstances in it. The belts go get passed around quite a lot, don't they? Nick Ball's obviously a brilliant champion.
Right.
Um, yeah, to be honest, I don't know.
How much does it inspire you, knowing that you could be that next guy up there? Obviously, we're talking multiple years down the road, but in the
Mm.
future, to become a guy that has that belt, represents Britain on the worldwide skits on the worldwide stage, what would that mean to you?
Yeah, I mean everything to me. obviously one step at a time, and it's not something I really considered until I turned pro, was the potential of winning the world title. And now that I've started my pro career, I do truly believe I can do that. And yeah, like you said, there's only the one British, the world champion in the UK at the moment, so it'd be a massive thing to go on and do that. So yeah, that's the main objective. But like you say, like I said, it's one step at a time. I want to work my way up slowly, and I'm only 24, so I've got a long career ahead of me, and it's all about timing and pro boxing.
When you look at the British scene today, I think the most obvious one that we're going to have is obviously Crocker Donovan's fighting each other on November, or right before the September 13th, I believe the date is. That's going to be the obvious next answer there. But outside of those two guys, who are some other guys that you feel like are very close to becoming world champions from Britain?
I've done that my weight. Um, I don't know. Moses Tum is the obvious one, isn't he? But with Usyk holding all the
Right.
belts, um, I've seen Turki has been calling for that fight, but whether it's the right timing for Moses, I think he's still young as well. So, do you want to rush him into a fight against someone who's going to be an all-time great, like Usyk
Exactly.
is? So, yeah, I don't know who the next one will be. There's so many great names out there, and I think at domestic level, British boxing is very big at the moment. So I think it's only a matter of time before people work their way up and are competing for world titles again.
Absolutely. Let's hop back into your amateur career. Just to highlight a couple of things. You won silver medal in the men's light heavyweight category of the 2022 Commonwealth Games. You accomplished so much great things in your amateur run. When you reflect back on that point in your life, what would you say was your favorite memory from your amateur career?
I'd say my best memory was that Commonwealth Games silver medal. The
Okay.
event as a whole was really well run, and I enjoyed the whole setup. I've had loads of great trips with the GB boxing team as well. I've been to America 3 times for training camps and tournaments. So yeah, loads of great memories. I think the biggest part of being an amateur is the travel. I've been to, like I said, America 3 times. I've been to Thailand, and I've been all over Europe at different tournaments. So I've basically faced every style that's out there in terms of boxing, but I've also seen the world and had some great experiences. But if I had to pin it down to one thing, it would be that Birmingham Commonwealth Games. That's my best achievement and my most enjoyable experience as well.
Now, for every single person that does the amateur ranks, obviously the end goal that you want to do is the Olympics. I know you fell just short of that, but I want to ask you about that experience because I know that kind of have to imagine, like you said, kind of influenced you to turn pro then. Walk us through this entire situation. You're building yourself up. The Olympics don't end up going according to your plans, I have to imagine. Just take us through that time span and why you thought that point in time that it's time to go pursue the pro ranks.
Yeah, I do believe I had the ability to go to the Olympic Games. I just feel like I was unlucky at some of the qualifiers. The timing of some of them didn't fall right, and didn't few disappointing performances or decisions. But I feel like last year was the right time to turn pro because of the age I was at, 24. I'd had over 100 amateur fights. I'd gained loads of experiences. I didn't want to leave it too late to turn pro. I could have stayed on for the next Olympics in 4 years' time, but it's just too long of a wait for me. I feel like I'd gained enough experience, and to be honest, turning pro was something I had aspirations to do since I was a kid. Since I started boxing, I've always watched pro boxing. It's only a few years ago that I sort of considered the Olympics as an opportunity that I'd like to pursue, and obviously that didn't work out. So rather than wait another 4 years, I thought last year was a good time to do it, and then I can really take my time in the pros rather than try and go to the Olympics with no guarantee of going and then having to rush my pro career when it comes to it.
So you'd say all along then the main goal for yourself was go pro. You want to become a pro as opposed to even the Olympics. That's kind of helped you in that decision then?
Yeah, I'd say I had more aspirations of turning pro than going to the Olympics throughout
Okay.
my whole boxing career. Like I said, when I was younger, I used to watch pro boxing. I didn't really know many Olympians. Once I got onto the Wales international team and then eventually GB, then then I started focusing my attention on the Olympics, and I did give it 100% to try and go there, but it just didn't work out, and I've got no regrets about turning pro now.
All right, well, let's hop into your pro career now. You obviously turned pro. November is when you officially announced that you signed a long-term promotional deal with Eddie Hearn's Matchroom. That's where you are today. But take us through that process, because I know that you being a top-ranked amateur, a lot of people knew who you were, especially out there in the UK. Why did Matchroom end up kind of separating themselves and being in the group that you really wanted to go with?
Matchroom for me was the leading promoter in the UK. I've always watched Matchroom shows. I think they're the most well run. I think Eddie Hearn's a great promoter. He comes across so well.
Mm-hmm.
He's sort of icon in himself in terms of publicity and stuff. Everyone knows who Eddie Hearn is. He also showed an interest with me when I was at the Commonwealth Games, so it was always at the back of my mind that going with Matchroom would be an option. So yeah, in terms of the process of signing with them, I got my manager Brian Peters first. I spoke with him, and then he sorted out the Matchroom contract with me, and then I eventually signed with them.
As you've gone through these discussions with Eddie Hearn and Matchroom, and you talk about your future, as we talked about, you're 24 years old, you have a bright future, great start so far, 6 upcoming fight on October 17th now. What do they kind of have in store for you in terms of building yourself up? Like, when do they plan on getting you ready so that you're ready to go out there and fight, for start getting the British type fights, going for domestic titles, and then possibly going to the world stage? What's the timeline for you look like?
To be honest, I'm not 100% myself. I
Okay.
just take it one fight at a time. I leave it down to them. I've got faith in Matchroom and my management team of the decisions they make. I think my level of opposition will slowly step up each fight and start going through the rounds and gaining more experience. But I think the next couple of years I'll start pushing for those titles, whether it's British or British level, Commonwealth, European. I'll leave that down to them, and then we'll push on to world titles from there.
So if I were to ask you just for your own personal evaluation, like you said, obviously it's in the hands of Eddie Hearn and Matchroom, Frank Smith, all those guys. But for yourself, do you feel like, another year of just getting a lot of reps underneath your belt, getting a lot of fights, getting rounds underneath your belt, is that kind of what you're looking for? And then hypothetically, let's say 2027, could that be the year we more look forward to for you guys competing for those belts?
Yeah, I think so. Especially if I carry on boxing at the sort of frequency I am now. I think, yeah, by the time 2027 comes about, I think I'll be in a position to fight for those sort of titles. Like I said before, it's a lot of timing in pro boxing. Who's got the titles? Like where they're at in their career, and it's down to my management team to pick those fights. But yeah, I think if I keep boxing at the frequency I am, 6 fights a year, that would be perfect. And by 2027, I think I'll be ready to fight anyone. To be honest, if it was up to me, I'd fight anyone now. But that's not how it works.
Right. If you were, like you said, obviously you think you're ready to go right now, and that's obviously smart. That's why you have people around you as well to kind of make sure you're on the right path. But if you were to look at yourself, what are the things that you want to improve on so that, when 2027 rolls around, you're ready to compete with anybody? What things you want to get better at and improve on?
Just like I said before, settling into fights, not rushing things.
Mm-hmm.
I've always had a good engine on me, so I can always go through the gears. But when you start boxing over 12 rounds, it's about pacing yourself properly and setting things up for later in the fight rather than just going full steam ahead, because boxers are too smart for that these days. And yeah, just putting more thought into things rather than just going in there and blasting people out. I want to properly show what I'm about and show the skills that I do have in my repertoire.
Okay, so you're super middleweight right now. It's 168 pounds. When you talk about that weight class, obviously there's not a lot of great British guys currently. Hamza Shiraz is the biggest one I'd say right now. It's obviously competing. I think he has a shot at becoming world champion, especially post-Canelo era. But when you look at that, is that the weight class that you plan on settling in at, competing at, or do you see yourself moving up to light heavyweight, maybe even cruiserweight in the future? Like, where do you see yourself possibly going in the future?
Yeah, it all depends on what direction my career goes in, but at the moment I'm making super middleweight really comfortably, so
Okay.
I'm definitely going to be here for a little while. I could potentially see myself moving to light heavyweight in the future if I fill out a little bit, and that depends how my body develops as I get older. But I think cruiserweight would be a push. But yeah,
Yeah.
light heavyweight, I definitely fill out into.
All right. Well, I want to ask a couple more things before I let you go, Taylor. And one of those things is this. We talk about the fan base in the UK as a whole, but you specifically, we've seen a massive fan base show out in support of yourself every single fight. I want to ask about that. Just take us through what that means to you, seeing those people represent you and support you each and every single one of your fights.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. To be honest, for my debut, I just completely forgot about how many people had bought tickets, and when I was walking out, I could hear them all cheering and how much noise they were making, and it was unbelievable. It was a special moment for me. It means everything to me having all the support of these fights, because people are spending their hard-earned money to come and support my career, and it gives me a lot of motivation when I'm training, and gives me that extra bit of push when times are getting hard and the camp's getting tough. But yeah, my last fight, I had hundreds of people come to watch, and this one's going to be a little bit different at York Hall because it's such a small venue. But I'm still looking forward to a brilliant atmosphere in there, and my mates always make a lot of noise, so it's going to be an amazing atmosphere, and looking forward to another good night there.
Absolutely. Well, Taylor, I've got one final question for you. And it's the question I like wrapping up every interview with is talking about your legacy. Obviously, you're just getting started in your career. You got a long, long way to go. But when that day does come in many, many years that you just had to step away from boxing, what do you want your legacy to be for what you have accomplished both inside and outside of the ring?
I think outside the ring, I just want to be known as a good person, someone that does the right thing in life. Inside the ring, someone that just gives 100%. Yeah, I don't think too much about the legacy I want to leave. I want to have a long, successful career, and I want to feel my potential as much as I can. I don't want to. I don't want to sort of not give 100% and not get to where I can get to. I want to reach my potential and be known as someone that's gives 100% in life and in the ring.
I love that. Well, Taylor, I appreciate you for taking time to come on today. I cannot wait to see what God's got in store for you, and best of luck in a couple of months when you return to the ring.
Thank you very much. Great to meet you.
Absolutely, Taylor. You're always welcome on, man. God bless.
Thank you.
I appreciate you guys all for tuning into the interview. I'll have that clipped up, edited out, and then posted on my YouTube channel separately for you guys to go out there and watch. So you guys can check that out very, very soon. But with that being said, I know there's a lot of stuff to get into today, starting off with Jake Paul and Gervonta Tank Davis fight announcement and a lot more things I want to get into on today's show. So we'll be getting into that right after going on a short break. Also, though, if there's any comments, questions, or topics for me that you want me to address or talk about, leave it in the chat, and I'll make sure to address that on today's show. Your comment will pop up on the screen when I get back, and we'll address those topics right when I get back from this break. So I'll see you guys very shortly. May God bless you guys all. I'll see you guys in about 4 or 5 minutes. See you guys shortly. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the SchuZ Show. Hope you guys are all having an incredible Wednesday. With that being said, we've got a lot of stuff to get into now on this portion of the show, which we'll be breaking down all the boxing news and also a fight breakdown from what happened in the early hours of this morning. So, obviously, there's massive news. I'll be getting to the Jake Paul, Gervonta Tank Davis news momentarily, but we're going to stick in order of what we had planned for the show, and that is to start off with a fight recap. I previewed it last night, a few hours before it got going, that there was going to be a pay-per-view event going down in Australia in the early hours of the morning in America, obviously prime time in Australia. However, I said this was going to be a ripoff. For anybody that wanted to pay for it, $60 to pay to watch this pay-per-view was pathetic. And I made that very, very clear from the very beginning. This was never a pay-per-view that needed to make sense. It should never have been a pay-per-view. It should have been free to all people. Now, for people in America, we didn't even have access to unless you wanted to utilize other sources. And you might know what I'm referring to for those of you that know what I'm talking about there. But if you were in Australia, you had to pay a pay-per-view, $60 to watch this happen. Here's what happened. I told you guys it's going to be a quite simple fight. Nikita Tszyu, first round KO. Michael Zarafa, first round KO. Brock Jarvis, fourth round KO. And he did not look very good in that fight either. If you paid pay-per-view, I told y'all, I warned y'all, you should not have been paying for that. You witnessed two fights, the two biggest names on the card, Nikita Tszyu and Michael Zarafa, only go out there and fight for a couple of minutes. And that was $60 worth of your money. I warned y'all, but I'm just saying that's what it is. For Nikita Tszyu and Zarafa, this was not a competitive fight. This was a stay busy fight. Both guys took care of business. Both guys got the first round KO. And both guys should be on to bigger and better things in the future. This was just a stay busy fight. Neither one of the guys they fought were competitive. It is what it is. As for Brock Jarvis, though, this was interesting. For Brock Jarvis, this is the man that fought Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman got the win on him, so on and so forth. But I'll just be honest. Although Brock Jarvis won, he beat Sam Beck, and he got the fourth round KO, it was not impressive. He was not looking very swell in that fight, and obviously there's a lot to be improved upon there. With that being said, let's get into boxing news. All right. We know the news that's now come out. Jake Paul will face Gervonta Tank Davis on Friday, November 14th at State Farm Arena in Atlanta, Georgia. This will be an exhibition fight live on Netflix. Talks for Jake Paul to face Anthony Joshua collapsed over network issues. Paul's last fight took place at 200 pounds, while Davis is a champion at 135. Here's the crazy news, folks. On today's show, I had originally planned to discuss what was next for Tank Davis. As it appeared, there were only two legitimate sources that were realistic. Now, the Jake Paul fight was always looming in the background, but what was believed for Tank Davis was to go out there and fight either Manny Pacquiao at 145 or 147 or the Lamont Roach rematch. In both situations, I would have been okay with it. For the Lamont Roach rematch, that made the most sense. If you are a boxer and you get into boxing, you are going in there to fight the best of the best and to make a statement. That's why you do boxing. And Lamont Roach was supposed to be an easy win for you earlier this year. You fumbled that fight. You should have lost that fight, but you had the rematch opportunity. That's the one that 90% of people would have pushed towards. However, a Manny Pacquiao fight still made sense. Move up and fight one of the top contenders currently ranked at 147. You could have fought a legend. You would have had this opportunity still to make a ton of money in that fight. It made sense. But here we are. And out of all the options, Gervonta Tank Davis, in his physical prime, is going to be hosting an exhibition fight against Jake Paul. Seriously? Out of all the options for Tank Davis, when we're talking about an opportunity for Tank Davis that most people would want to see is the Shakur Stevenson fight. We want to see Lamont Roach. Even Manny Pacquiao, so be it. We're going to have him fight Jake Paul in his prime. If I'm going to be honest with you guys, this right here is an absolute disgrace. And honestly, I even go a step further. Gervonta Tank Davis going out there and fighting Jake Paul for an exhibition fight in his physical prime is the reason that we're seeing American boxing and boxing, maybe even as a whole, delinquish and lessen more and more so in this era of boxing. This is an era where this is a sport where the best are supposed to go out there and fight each other. That's the way boxing's always ran. You're going to lose sometimes. You're going to get knocked out sometimes. But you go out there and you fight the best of the best. You're hosting an exhibition fight in your physical prime when you have yet to defeat any of the top guys at your weight class. You have not made your statement. You are not first ballot Hall of Fame. You're not even Hall of Fame bound to any extent right now. You have a chance to be. You are one of the most God-gifted abilities in all of boxing this generation, this era. You are proclaimed as the face of boxing in America of this era, and yet you won't fight the top guys. And I'll be honest, I understand it. Is there going to be a massive bag for Gervonta Tank Davis? Yes. Does Gervonta Tank Davis only want the money? Yes. I get it. It is what it is. But it does not change the fact that what's happening in boxing right now, specifically in America, is in large part due to these issues. At least for Floyd Mayweather, he was going out there still fighting big names. For Gervonta Tank Davis, he's not doing that. He's not fighting Shakur Stevenson. He's not fighting any of these other top guys. He won't even go out there and get his get back against Lamont Roach. This is a massive problem. And if we look at why is boxing lessening in popularity in America so massively right now in this generation over the past decade or so, it is in large part due to issues like this. And Gervonta Tank Davis was given the keys of this generation. He was given the keys to be the face of this era, and yet here we are. In his physical prime, he is ducking Lamont Roach. He is ducking Shakur Stevenson. He's ducking all these top guys to chase the big bag and go out there and fight Jake Paul. I get it for the money. I understand that point of view. However, if you are a boxer, you join the sport potentially for money in his situation, I get it, but you join the sport to make your legacy great, to become a massive name and defeat the best of the best and prove that you're the baddest man alive. And if you're Gervonta Tank Davis, all due respect, we cannot say that about this generation of what he's done. He is not a Hall of Fame fighter at this moment in time. Hopefully he comes out of the Jake Paul fight and goes and fights Shakur Stevenson or somebody else. But remember, he has already said before that he's only got a handful of fights left. Is that true? I do not know. But what we do know is that he said that before, and now is coming back after the Lamont Roach situation, after his legal situations, and is fighting Jake Paul right at the gate. This is embarrassing, both for Gervonta Tank Davis and for the sport of boxing as a whole, specifically in the United States of America. It's a disgrace. Now, I know a lot of comments are going to be coming back at me and say this: hey, well, you're still going to go out there and watch it. Of course I'm going to watch the fight. It's free on Netflix. It's going to be a massive event, spectacle. The build-up process will be sensational. Don't get that twisted. And also, I watch almost every single fight that happens in boxing anyways. So, of course, I'm going to be watching it. But is it good for the health of the sport as a whole? Absolutely not. But yet, here we are. So, Jake Paul will be fighting Gervonta Tank Davis on Friday, November 14th at State Farm Arena in Atlanta, Georgia. I will flip sides of this, though. For Jake Paul, massive props to him. He's coming out as the winner in the situation. And let me tell you why. For Jake Paul, the report specifically says this: Jake Paul talks to face Anthony Joshua collapsed over network issues. Whether that is true or not, what we cannot deny is that supposedly Jake Paul had the guts to try to kind of knock out a deal and get a deal locked in with Anthony Joshua. That's impressive. For him to even consider stepping foot in the ring with Anthony Joshua is very impressive. So props to him. Hats off to Jake Paul in that regard. So he wins on the promotional aspect in that regard in the public view. Secondly, he's going to fight Gervonta Tank Davis. He should be the favorite in that fight. And a lot of people are going to look at me crazy for saying that. Jake Paul is not a horrendous fighter. Is he better at skill, pound for pound fighter than Tank Davis? No way, shape, or form is he that. However, is he going to have a potential roughly around a 30-pound weight advantage on Tank Davis? Yes. And if you have decent skills, as Jake Paul does have, against Gervonta Tank Davis, who is not very tall, Jake Paul will be nearly a foot bigger than him, and is going to be nearly 70 pounds more, Jake Paul should be the favorite. Ron Garcia said it best, and I agree with Ron Garcia there. At the end of the day, this is an exhibition fight. It doesn't necessarily matter in that regard. However, Jake Paul is now going to get a massive bag. He's going to grow his name even more. He's going to have one of the biggest, maybe even the biggest fight. It's going to rival Canelo Alvarez and Bud Crawford in terms of viewership. And you get a massive bag, and you look good in the PR standpoint because of the Anthony Joshua situation, in which now you come out and emerge as somebody that said, okay, you're willing to move to heavyweight and fight one of the baddest heavyweights in all the world right now. So Jake Paul comes out as a winner in the situation. The WBO has ordered an interim cruiserweight title bout between Chris Billam-Smith and Roman Fress. Teams have until September 8th to reach a deal to avoid a purse bid. Interesting situation there. I like this opportunity. They need an interim, Risotto being out for an extended period of time. Chris Billam-Smith deserves another shot at a world championship. Now, would I prefer to see the Jaya Pataya opportunity happen? Yes. But obviously that didn't happen due to the fact that the door would not open because of the mandatory situation with Opataya that I talked about last night. So it's not a bad fallback option there. Next up, Turki reportedly wants to make Itauma versus Alexander Usyk. I like Itauma-Uysk. I think what he's doing for boxing is massive. Some people hate on him. I think it's good for the sport. However, Itauma-Uysk wanting to make Alexander Usyk versus Itauma is shameful. I don't like it at all. This is no shot at Itauma. I think Itauma is the future of boxing. He is the next great heavyweight. No doubt about that. However, for Itauma, he has only fought 13 professional fights. He had a relatively short pro career or amateur career, and he's only 20 years old. The most competitive person or biggest name you could say he's fought is an aging, way past his prime Dillian Whyte. He took care of business this weekend against Dillian Whyte, but it's not a very remarkable name. If you're telling me that you think this 20-year-old man with 13 professional fights, a relatively short amateur career, is ready to go out there and fight the best heavyweight of this generation, one of the greatest boxers to ever put on the gloves, right now, you would be foolish. Now, to be honest, I don't think there's a single boxer in all the world right now that could go out there and beat Alexander Usyk. But throwing Mosi Toma into the den with Alexander Usyk is a bad mistake. You have to take care of your young prospects. You have to build them up properly. And Mosi Toma has not fought a top 10 ranked heavyweight yet. Do I think he could be in the top 10? Do I think he deserves to be in the top 10? Absolutely. But is Mosi Toma ready to jump the list and go from Dillian Whyte to Alexander Usyk? Absolutely not. In no way, shape, or form should this fight get made right now. Would I be against him fighting Joseph Parker for a world championship if Usyk vacates? And then if he beats Joseph Parker fighting Usyk? Sure. But jumping immediately from Dillian Whyte to Alexander Usyk is bad. Now, don't get me wrong. If I'm wrong in this situation and Alexander Usyk loses to Mosi Toma, then we're talking about potentially one of the greatest boxers ever in the making in Mosi Toma. But is it worth throwing him into the fire this quickly? Absolutely not. He's 20 years old as a heavyweight. Throwing him into the den with Alexander Usyk is a massive mistake right now, and it is a mismanagement of his career. I get he would easily bounce back. He would come back from that. But why not build him up properly, get him a top 10 fight, and then at that point in time evaluate whether or not that makes sense. But going directly for Alexander Usyk right now makes no sense whatsoever. Francis Ngannou is expecting negotiations for a fight against Deontay Wilder to begin soon. This is the fight I think makes the most sense. It has been talked about for quite some time now. When you talk about Deontay Wilder, we're looking at a man who is regarded as potentially the most powerful puncher in heavyweight history. You could debate that, but it's certainly up there. Francis Ngannou has broken the record before as the most powerful punch ever recorded, specifically by an MMA fighter. Two of the most powerful men. This was always going to be a fight that you could easily promote. And if you are Francis Ngannou, you obviously are coming off the Anthony Joshua loss from last year, almost a year and a half ago at this point in time. And if you're Deontay Wilder, you're coming off your win you just had a couple of weeks ago now. But both guys are rebuilding their careers to a certain extent. Get them in the ring. You could easily promote this fight as being one of the most powerful punchers going after it. It's easy to promote. Two big names, heavyweight division, make the fight happen. And the winner of that fight gets themselves right back into the heavyweight mix. Is it rightful? No, because now the guy's getting necessarily a massive win, but both guys would then have the name, image, and money, financial backing behind them to make a big fight happen. So this is a big fight I like to see. I would be intrigued by it. Francis Ngannou, Deontay Wilder, two most powerful men we have ever seen in combat sports, going after it in the ring. I would be all for this fight. I think it'd be a very intriguing, very appealing fight. You could easily market it. If I were them, negotiate that deal, get it locked in. It makes a ton of sense for both guys in this situation. Eddie Hearn on the fights he wants to make in 2026. I'll list them off, and as I go, I'll give you guys my thoughts. Anthony Joshua vs. Tyson Fury. That's the obvious one. Biggest fight to make in all boxing, Wembley Stadium. The last hurrah for both guys. Book that fight. Jerome Boots Ennis versus Ortiz. Another big one. Especially if both guys are world champions, this becomes a unification fight. We're looking at one of the biggest fights you could make in all of America. Sugar Nunez versus Emmanuel Navarrete. This is interesting. Why? You have Raymond Ford underneath the Matchroom branch as well. If you're going to say you want Sugar Nunez and Navarrete, I get it. Mexican ties would be a massive fight in Mexico. However, it is shocking how little respect it seems to have that Eddie Hearn has for Raymond Ford. I know he likes him, but when Raymond Ford came on the show a little bit ago, he seemed to kind of give a little bit of a hint that something wasn't necessarily right with Eddie Hearn there and what's going on negotiation-wise, and this goes to prove it further. Sugar Nunez should be fighting Raymond Ford in the future. Him going for Emmanuel Navarrete is interesting. Then Diego Pacheco versus Canelo versus Hamza Shiraz. Both of those would be good options there. I like Hamza Shiraz specifically. Naoya Inoue, Bam Rodriguez. That's interesting. I've always said I'm not a big fan of that fight. I would like to see Bam versus Junto at first. But still, if he can make that fight happen, I'd be very intrigued by that matchup. And then Dmitry Bivol versus Jai Opetaia. I like that fight. I think Archie Beterbiev, David Benavidez, and Dmitry Bivol could all go up to cruiserweight, would make that weight class a lot more appealing, especially with Jai Opetaia being there. And if those guys move up, that's the only thing that should keep Jai Opetaia in the weight class. If those guys don't move up to that weight class, Opetaia needs to move on and get out of cruiserweight, move to heavyweight. Last couple things before I wrap today's show. Speaking of Vergil Ortiz, it's now been breaking news. Vergil Ortiz and Erickson Lubin will square off this fall. Interesting news there because Erickson Lubin was lined up to fight Bakur Murtavalia for a world championship. Now Erickson Lubin is going to fight Vergil Ortiz for a fight without a world championship. It is very interesting. Josh Kelly now gets put in a mandatory position for an opportunity to go fight Bakur Murtavalia. After first bids for a bout with Erickson Lubin were canceled, the IBF has now ordered Bakur Murtavalia to defend his 154-pound title against Josh Kelly. So, a lot of moving pieces there. Lubin decided to turn down the world championship for the bigger payday, bigger fight with Vergil Ortiz, and that means Josh Kelly gets his fight against Bakur Murtavalia, which both guys seem to want there. Hopefully those deals get squared away. A little bit surprised Lubin didn't go for the world championship. I don't think he would have beat Bakram. He goes for the payday. Not against that at all. Still a big fight for both guys. So 154, a lot of moves getting made there. That's what the new weight class does look at like at this point in time. With that being said, though, I appreciate you guys all for tuning in today's show. I don't see any more comments in the comment section, so I'll go ahead and wrap up today's show. With that being said, though, I will be back live tomorrow. I'm not sure what time it will be, probably roughly around 5:30 or 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. I'll let you guys know, though, tomorrow what time that's going to start at. But I hope you guys have a blessed rest of you guys Wednesday. I'll be back live, like I said, tomorrow, so I'll see you guys then. May God bless you guys all. And with that being said, SchuZ is out. See you guys tomorrow.